speaking is not my is not in my skill set, so bear with me as I stumble upon words and trip on myself. But I'm going to do my best to explain different techniques you can use to theme your Drupal menus and reasons for using the Drupal menu system versus using static navigation files. One thing that got me to thinking about this presentation or this topic was that as a Drupal developer, I run across a lot of websites that have been pre-developed. We upgrade, we add features, more functionality, and oftentimes I encounter sites where they're using a navigation system that is in an include file or it's been hard-coded into the page template. And most often than not, there's really no need to do that. And so I want to go over various reasons for when to do that versus when not to do that. And even in cases where there is instances where you think you have to rely on a static navigation file, I'm going to offer suggestions or alternatives to where you can fall back on the Drupal menu system and still get the same desired results. Give you a little bit of just a brief introduction, background about who I am. I'm Trent Wyman. I'm a Drupal theming specialist. I work for MediaCurrent, and MediaCurrent is located here in Alpharetta, and we're basically a full-fledged Drupal shop. All we do is Drupal development. Static links versus Drupal menu links. Of course, static navigation files are hard-coded, usually written as HTML, sometimes PHP or ASP include files. Typically, this is the pre-Web 2.0 way of creating menus. A lot of people come from the HTML background and are so used to typing out code, wrapping their labels in hyperlinks and spitting out a menu that way. What I'm going to suggest, or not suggest, but I'm going to explain is how the Drupal menu system can be used instead. The advantages of using the Drupal menu system is it requires no direct coding or file management to add or edit your navigation. So that means you don't have to open up any extra files, have knowledge of HTML, PHP, ASP, or anything like that. You can just simply go in through the administrative control panels and add your links and create your paths that way. So when to use a static navigation file versus when to use Drupal's menu system, there's rarely a need to really use a static file now because Drupal is so flexible and easy to use. In my opinion, almost a kindergartner or an elementary school kid can go in and if they just know the path to the right interface, they can add a menu item. Occasionally, there may be instances when a static menu is necessary, like if the graphic design or the visual requirements for that website or that page or that menu require like certain graphic swaps or particular hover effects or positioning that can't be achieved with using Drupal menu out of the box. So like if the design uses non-web safe fonts, oftentimes these fonts have to be converted into images and made into buttons instead of standard text links. Or perhaps if you need to granularly theme your links, and the default Drupal menu does not provide style classes specific enough to target individual links versus others. And if applying custom background images and hover effects to menu items. These often are times when you have to rely on a static menu, but I'm going to explain ways to get around that. Bear with me, let me get a drink here. So, as I said a minute ago, most often, if not always, you should create your navigation using Drupal's menu system because it's easier to update and manage versus the static files. The output is web standards compliant. Static menu files often contain validation errors. It's been my experience of working on files that have been managed by multiple people over a period of time. They tend to get kind of sloppy with the code. They don't validate or check the output. They just kind of crank it out, get it working, and send it on their way. And using Drupal's menu system, you can avoid that. And Drupal menus are also more accessible than static menus. The links can be recognized by screen readers and read to those who are visually impaired. And also the links are available via keyboard input, so you don't have to use the mouse or rely on the mouse solely to navigate through the site. So if you still feel limited to using a static menu, here are some alternatives. If your design requires a non-web-safe font, you can consider this contrib module called Dynamic Rendering, which leverages CFR. And the CFR module, or the CFR technology, basically you can apply or take a font style, put it on the server, and if it's a non-web-safe font, that font is available on your server to display on the page so the user can see that particular typeface. Oh, SIFR. And yeah, and if you need to granularly theme your links, say if you need unique style classes output to every sub-menu item, then there are several Drupal contrib modules that you can use to add that flexibility. I'm going to explain, I guess this is probably common knowledge to everybody, but I'm just going to kind of cover the basics of the Drupal menu system, how it is out of the box. So when you download Drupal, install it, you're running Garland or whatever your default theme is, Drupal creates 3 types of menus out of the box. You have primary links, secondary links, and the navigation menu. Primary links are typically your global links. These are navigation items that appear throughout the site on all pages. Secondary links, I come from, I guess, the old school of considering secondary links the child of the primary links, but in Drupal, the secondary links menu is separate from the primary menu. And it's intended to be used as a lesser navigation. But for the subsequent explanations of my slides, we're going to refer to the secondary links as the child of the primary links. So I'll get to that in a minute. And then the navigation menu is Drupal's administrative menu that you use to navigate through the tasks within the CMS. And of course, here's the screenshot of Drupal's menu out of the box. Okay, and everybody needs a custom menu. You're going to have your own links, your own labels that are particular, unique to your site. The easiest way to create these is just use Drupal's custom primary menu out of the box. Add your own links into it and display as needed. If you need to create a unique menu in Drupal, there's a Add Menu tab located under the Menu Administration page. Like if your site.com/admin build menu add, that would be the path to create a custom menu. And there's the tab to access the Add Menu link. Okay. I'm now going to go over a few contrib modules that you can use to enhance the output or the functionality of Drupal's menus. Nice Menus is a contrib module that's commonly used. It enables drop-downs, hover effects, uses CSS, it has minimal JavaScript, only loads JavaScript for IE6, and now uses Suckerfish Jquery plugin for all browsers, which has the option to disable JS, and it can fall back on CSS only.
Is that something completely different from Suckerfish?
Actually, it probably uses Suckerfish behind its layers. Huh?
No, it's actually like it's old school. The original code was written for it, for example, but the version 2 is in development right now. That's Suckerfish because JavaScript is on Suckerfish. It's the same basic code. So both of them. Yeah, I mean, I think there might be some other control models. I think it's sort of
And here's an example of a site using nice menus, and you can see here how it indents the child elements and for the hover states. And the good thing about nice menus is that you can independently style and theme each menu item from the other. So that's the leverage one plus or major plus that the nice menus offers. Now here's my favorite, but a lot of people don't like it because it does require JavaScript. It's the DHTML Menu module. Thing about it, it does reduce the number of page loads when you're using nested menus. Let's see. Yeah, the thing is to expand the sub items of the menu, unlike like nice menus where you just simply hover over it and the child menu appears. With the DHTML menu module, you actually have to click the parent menu item to expand the children for that item. So that's one downside for people who like just the ease of usability of just hovering. And then, of course, if you double-click the item, it'll load the page normal. The DHTML menu module also sets a cookie on the client's browser, which remembers the state the menu was in the last time you left the page. So if you come back to the site later, the menu is still expanded to the last state that you left it in. Also, as you go from page to page within the site, the menu retains its display. And here's an example of a site that uses DHTML menu module, basically to expand child links from the parent. And another bonus to this menu module is that it gives very specific, unique CSS classes to every item in the menu. That's parents, child, tertiary, and everything. Yes?
Can you use them both at the same time? So you use the HTML on the left menu, the navigation, and use the primary and secondary on the next menu? So you get the hover over as well as the cookie?
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. I mean, that's the great thing about Drupal. It's so flexible. You know, you could, integrate several different modules and have them work together hand in hand. So, yes?
Quick question. Do either of these modules allow you to make I forget what they call it, the really big menus? You click on the link and it gives you almost like a site map of the different
The mega drop down?
mega drop down.
Yes.
Mega drop down. I'm familiar with that.
It's just always, like right now, most menus, you get a drop down, you select that, and it goes to another drop down, and it cascades down, and it can be really annoying. And what the mega drop down does is when you click on it, it just gives you like a box with all of the links.
Shows them all.
It's something that Jacob Nielsen is saying. It's a good thing now. A few people have been doing it. It just makes it's a lot more immediate.
Yeah, those two modules aren't capable of doing that. Yes. Does it?
Well, the Superfish integration is in development, so I haven't gone very far. Just the core stuff is for very soon. But yeah, I mean, the thing is like once Superfish is very he's adding other plugins to that.
Because I got mega menus running on my site.
Okay. So Superfish is an alternative to Next Menu, or is it the
Miss,
an API?
Superfish is a JavaScript thing.
Oh, okay.
You can use the CSS menus to add additional functionality that do JavaScript. And so there are modules that there are themes actually that have themes that have Superfish integrated with themes and stuff like that. So they're just using Superfish. I'm just adding Superfish to nice menus. So
Okay.
that when they use nice menus, you can turn it off if you don't want it, but if you do want it, you can have access to all the Superfish stuff. So you could add that and have that add-on to it.
Okay. Thank you.
I got a question for you guys. Are you guys using a contrib module for the mega menus? Yeah, either one of you? Oh, okay. All right, I wasn't aware if there was a contrib module for mega menus. If there was, somebody speak up. I'd like to know. Okay, and then here's a new menu module called Jquery Menu. It's currently in 6 dev right now, but it appears to be pretty stable. And I've seen it used on a couple of sites, and I haven't encountered any usability issues with it so far. It uses simple cross-browser compatibility or compatible jQuery to make multi-level menus collapsible and expandable. Unlike the DHTML menu module, which you have to click twice on a link to follow the expansion, you just have to click once, and it expands. or it takes you to the page. It separates the link from the expanding mechanism, and it also, by default, adds a little plus and minus bullet next to the link to show if it has expandable options or not. And here's an example of a site using the Jquery Menu module. And here you can see where it adds the plus, and well, they've themed theirs special, but out of the box it would just be a plus and a minus sign. Okay, to get your Drupal menus and your links to display, there's a couple different ways you can do it. Typically, you want, if you're using just Drupal out of the box, page TPL will have the function within it to render the primary menus, so there's really nothing you have to do except create the menu itself, and it'll display within your page. But if you're using a custom theme, or if you want your menu to appear in a specific area of your site, you can use the Drupal blocks to output it to that region. And you can also use, well, in the next section here I'm going to cover CSS targeting techniques, and I'm also going to go over Suckerfish CSS. Sorry, my slide got a little out of order there. So here's, assigning your menu to the blocks. If you're using your default primary links menu, you would find it on your block list page under disabled if you just had installed it. And right here in this selector is the region. And this is where you would assign it to either right sidebar, left sidebar, header, footer, whatever the case be that you need for your site. And here I was talking a minute ago about the function that is within your page TPL to display your primary links menu. And this is what comes out of the box with Drupal in either Garland or Blue Marine or any of the other standard themes. But this function can also be taken and pasted or applied to a custom theme as well, and it will basically do the same thing. All right, it's a little small here. If you're using Drupal out of the box, you can use CSS to target your links for theming, and the basic way to do that is basically you're styling by your primary div and then your unordered list items. And so your first level unordered list, this would be your primary top highest level links, your parent links. And then to target secondary or child links, you're going deeper into the UL classes. And so the UL item targets the container of the top menu. UL targets the container of the child menu. UL targets the grandchild or the third level tertiary menu. And you can style the LI element, which is what is encapsulating the anchor. So if you need to apply a bullet or a background to your link with an image, you can do that with ULLI for the parent, ULLI for the child, ULLI for the tertiary grandchild. And then if you need to style the link, simply ULLIA, and etc. And so that's pretty much the basic method for targeting your links for theming with CSS. And these, of course, can be expanded upon. You can add hover, states, all kinds of stuff can be done to specific elements within. All right, Suckerfish, my friend. Great CSS technique. You can enhance your menu theming by tenfold using Suckerfish. It provides hover states, gives you drop downs, allows you to hide and show third level, second level items simply by hovering. It's cross-browser compatible and uses very minimal JavaScript to apply the mouse over events. And here is an example of a static menu using Suckerfish to achieve these drop-down horizontal special positioning treatments that are done here on this site for Carlos Museum for Emory. This design required is a very rigid graphic design we had to follow, and each hover state and each child menu had a certain position on the page according to the section. So we had to really theme this menu granularly and get down to those specific child and grandchild classes, and Suckerfish allowed us to do that. And here's another example of Suckerfish. This is using Drupal's menu system and applying CSS to get the drop-down effects. Whereas the one for Carlos was so specific in design that we had to use a static file. And then that kind of brings me to, does anybody have any questions? Yes?
A few slides ago, there's a summary of the three major different approaches you can take. Do you have
Which three? Let's see.
Yeah.
That was it? Of course, and I go too far. Bear with me, I'm not a PowerPoint person. Let's see. Yeah. Where's it at? Nope. 18. Thank you.
Still clear on when is the best time to use each of those three approaches?
Okay. Well, the three approaches as in when to assign it to a region, or
I mean, which one to choose? Which approach to choose?
the static menu versus the Drupal menu, or if you need to use Suckerfish, or okay. Yeah, so basic CSS targeting is only if you just need to simply style your links. You don't need any special positioning, any particular special differences in treatment between different child items. Bear with me as I try to explain this. If your design, say it's like a .gov site where they don't require any heavy graphic design, there's nothing really there, it's just basic functionality. Then there you would just use basic CSS targeting to apply whatever font styles you need to your links, and such. But if you want to get more graphical, let's see, then like with the Carlos Emery site, well, if I figure out how to open that in a full display. Well, anyway, here's an instance where we had to use Suckerfish because the design required such rigid and strict rules. And so with each item drop down, there's a different color bar, and every third tertiary item has a separate color bar from that. If you're on this side of the menu, then the menu's positioned this way. If you're on this side of the menu, they go this way. So we had to basically really get down in there and theme this on a real granular level, and Suckerfish allowed us to do that. Whereas if it's just a basic, like I said, .gov site or something like that, or it's just, there's really no need to get that granular. And so there you just use your basic CSS targeting. I hope that explained. Okay.
Bill, one thing you can do is override Drupal's default menu output in template.php. So kind of similar to what I was saying about Suckerfish, if you wanted to expose a different class name in Drupal by default output for, let's say, a second level menu item, that's possible using a theme override. So that's another technique.
Anybody else? Questions? Yeah.
You were mentioning the CSS for using nice menus,
Mm-hmm.
targeting CSS. Are there special classes you would use for the IE6?
Not really special classes. There have been occasions where I've had to use the nasty underscore hack for, specifically overriding something that IE6 was not doing properly. But Suckerfish has a JavaScript file with it that does handle the IE6 rendering of the mouse events.
It's just that you can't use the hover click on the IE6 on this time. So when I was using Suckerfish before, you had to have something like that as a hover.
Yeah, that has to be, that's included with it. Yeah, I think it's all encapsulated within the same JS file that when you download or the nice menus, it all comes with. Oh yeah, Hmm. Okay. Anybody else? I feel like I just blew through this. I spoke so fast. All right. Class dismissed.